Hey there, amazing listeners. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got a bit more housekeeping. If you love the show as much as we love making it, please hit that follow button. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a like, leave a comment, or share an episode. We still find that good old word of mouth is the best way to get the show out there. So please tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your dog, or for our demographic, tell your fellow residents in the old folks' home. Your support helps us keep the conversation going, brings more awesome content your way, and allows us to attract some fab guests. So thanks as always for listening. For now, get comfy, get cozy, and let's get into it.
Let's start a podcast about our mental health for no good reason why. Let's call it Mind Cake.
All right, Chavies, and welcome to another slice of Mind Cake.
Chavies?
Okay, come on.
Mind Cake?
With him,
Lee Crompton, and him,
Paul Beeson.
Paolo Bisson.
Pablo Bistonel.
And I hope you're not calling our listeners chavs.
Chavies?
Is that the female equivalent of chavs?
That's just that. All right, Chavy. It's just like...
Chavettes.
Anyway, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
You're looking very
got
hairy.
that out of the way.
Good. That's enough of that mental health stuff. You're looking very hairy. You've got you said it didn't grow. You've got like a shaggy beard going on now as well, like on the chin. Yeah.
I just haven't shaved. No, but like I said, I get the goatee, just
Yeah,
not
get
the
goatee,
sideys. Not the sideys.
The baby's bum cheeks.
Yeah.
So where are you? Where are you in the country?
I've just arrived in Ipswich.
Nice. Is it very?
couple-
I've never been. Is it very? Is it as flat as they say?
I don't know, because it was dark
It's
when I
dark.
arrived.
Okay.
I spent 3.5 hours in a van. There was a broken down vehicle. Literally just got here about 10 minutes ago. All I've seen is motorways and darkness. So I can't even tell you what Ipswich is like until I go there tomorrow.
Okay. The tractor boys, aren't they?
Sure. Let's go with that.
I think that's what the football team are known as.
The Tractor Boys. I didn't know that.
Tractor boys, I think.
Ah,
Could be wrong. Anyway,
yeah.
if you're an Ipswich fan, please let us know if I've got it wrong. So you'll be pleased to know if you've spent that long in a van and you're clearly very tired and needing some rest, that we are not doing a waffle episode.
Ooh. That's perked me up.
That's perked you right up. I had the pleasure of talking to Amy Alexander, who is currently in Bali doing a yoga retreat.
Sounds amazing.
And we were on for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's probably more than one episode I can pick out of this. Well, I know there is because we went off at many tangents.
Okay. You love a tangent.
Love a tangent.
And Amy Alexander apparently loves a tangent as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that for the length of time that we spoke, I would say it was mostly mental health related.
That's a first for our mental health podcast.
I was going to say, now that we're a year old, we have matured.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I think we'll get chatting to Amy. She can do the talking. She can tell us all about yoga and what she's been up to and her backstory, which is fascinating.
Sweet. I can't wait to hear it.
Let's go. Right. Well, today's guest is the wonderful Amy Alexander. And having chatted to you for half an hour before we came on, I'm not entirely sure where to start. How are you?
It is very, very lovely to be here, and thank you for having me on. I am very well, and also many things are happening that I have no idea what the outcome is going to be. So I'm mixed. I'm good, and also I am right now practicing have a bit of faith rather than trying to control what's happening. It's a little up in the air in the moment.
Yes, we should. It's just a little bit breaky uppy on the line.
Yeah.
I should explain that the reason for that is because you are where in the world, Amy?
From Bali.
Bali. And why are you in Bali?
I am in Bali. Now, that's a good question. I'm in Bali because I initially came to do my yoga teacher training.
Okay.
And then I just didn't leave.
So how long have you been in Bali?
Also a good question. It's a few months now. I was in Bali for 6 weeks, and
Okay.
then I went to New Zealand, and then I went to Thailand, and then I came to New Zealand in 2 days on Monday.
Which is part of the reason for your angst.
Yes, correct. Most of the reason.
Why Bali?
So it had been on my mind for a while. And I always thought that I'd eventually get to Bali. I knew that it was a place that was very spiritual, and I felt like I could do with a spot of spirituality, especially in London when things were very busy and hectic and on the go. And I had started doing a little bit of yoga ever since a yoga retreat I did a few years ago at Shambhala retreats in Portugal. And that really opened my eyes to how amazing yoga was for my body and my mind. And I was going through a really hard time at the time. So I started doing yoga bits every day. And even if sometimes it was 2 minutes on the mat, and sometimes it was 15, sometimes it was a bit longer. And I didn't really know what to do. I just got on the mat and started doing some things. And I knew that Bali was meant to be a great place to go for yoga. And it was a bit of a tough year. A bunch of things just ended at the same time. That was completely unexpected. And as you know, like with the film industry, there's been very little work, and that's been across the world. So there was the actor strike and the writer's strike, and that caused a lot less to be produced, plus cost of living, lower advertising, less is being produced. So it's been really quite a difficult years for actors across the world. And the other jobs that I was doing, I was working really hard at, and it was interesting in its own way, and I was developing other skills, but then that was coming to an end itself as well. And then my living situation came to an unexpected end too. So it just felt like I was working so hard to have this, goal that I wanted. I had a picture of what I wanted it to be like, and it wasn't looking like that. Life wasn't looking like that. And I was working so hard, I didn't have a huge amount of time for doing yoga, for doing my hobbies, for going to the theatre, going to the cinema and that kind of thing. And to be honest, when the last felt like the last domino fell with the living situation, and I was like, okay,
enough.
So this isn't working. Something I'm doing is not working here. And I'm a firm believer in that, if you're not getting the result you want, then you need to change what you're doing. And I was like, maybe I've just kept trying to do the same thing. I've been trying to approach acting from a similar place for a long time. And maybe I've got to switch that up. And it was a pretty, dire moment, to be honest, of, oh gosh, nothing is working. And that's when I heard this voice in my head saying, it's okay, you're going to Bali.
And it wasn't Idris Elba.
It wasn't Idris on this occasion, no. Okay. Although, wouldn't that be a really nice voice to have in your head?
He'd be a good voice to have in your head, I reckon. We should maybe explain why I've just mentioned Idris Elba. Personal friend of yours.
Wonderful person. We worked together on a couple of Booking.com commercials, which were played at the Super Bowl. So it was brilliant fun. The hair flick doesn't come across on a podcast.
It doesn't, but I'll maybe put that out on the socials as a teaser, so that people know.
Lovely.
I can't do it. I'm not. It doesn't really work with me.
Not quite the same fit. Do you know what? Just imagine it and do it energetically. Give me an energetic hair flick. There you go. Beautiful.
If only.
All the sass.
It's made me feel a bit sad, actually, that I can't do it in real life. But anyway.
You never know. One day.
Paul, when you, I'll send you a picture. That sounds a bit weird. You'll see on the socials, we always mention Paul's hair.
Okay.
He has quite the bouffon.
Wow. Can he do hair flip?
I don't know if it's long enough at the back. He could certainly do a thing on the top. It's very
Marvelous.
fluffy. And something to behold and something that I'm very jealous of. But anyway,
Good for him.
I think
We'll just
your
take a
paths
moment for
must have
his
crossed.
hair.
Yeah, no, and he's got a big tash at the minute because he's growing it for a part.
Oh, yes, yes. I've not had to grow tash for a part
No.
yet, but I have had to get I did say to my agent, I was like, listen, there's one thing that I will not do. I really do not want to change my hair. I do not want to change my hair. Any hair change needs to be in advance, agreed, yada yada. But then I arrived on set semi-confidentially for it was a production.
Wow, okay.
And I arrived on set and I was so excited to work for this extremely exciting production. And we did all the hair and makeup trials. And I was like, brilliant, brilliant. Looks great. Really happy with this. I was playing an American, as I usually do. And the next day I arrive on set and they say, they've got this hair scissors and this brush. And they went, we just wondered. And I was like, uh-oh, here we go. It's the moment. And they went, we just want you to look a little more glamorous. And at first I'm like, excuse me? Does this face not look glamorous enough for you this morning at 5 a.m.? But they show me a picture and the guy who's doing the styling was amazing. And he's styled for like the top models across the world. And it's that kind of moment where you're like, you know what? Who am I to question this?
I'll just go with it.
Go with it. So I sat there and I got my hair cut for this job, this thing I said I'd never do on the day. Just messaging my agent. She was like, you look fabulous, darling.
Well, again, if I ever get rung by I would never have that problem. You could do what you like with it.
There you go. Well, I did have to have a wig for one, so
okay.
Yeah. You could get a wig and then do your hair toss.
Yeah.
That will happen for you.
I think it will. I just need to visualize it.
Exactly. As if it's already done. I'm
surprised yours and Paul's paths haven't crossed, because where were you when you were Scottish based? Have you been in London for a long, long time though?
I have actually, yes. I was in London for the best part of about 12 years with stints for about a year in Vancouver. And during COVID time, so when the lockdown lifted, I went home to be with my family at that point, and I lived in Edinburgh for about 2 years.
Okay.
But I think it was during a time where, to be honest, people were still getting used to mingling.
Yeah, you wouldn't be mingling, yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the voice that wasn't Idris.
Gotcha. So, plonk, back in time. The voice was mine.
Your voice.
In my head. Saying,
in your head.
It's okay. It's okay, Amy, you're going to Bali. So, anyway, I scooted upstairs and I just immediately looked up Bali on Google and just to see where it was. And what was funny was that I saw Bali and then I saw New Zealand. New Zealand was actually the first thing I saw when I looked it up. And I'd always known I wanted to go to New Zealand as well. And I started feeling really emotional. I started tearing up just seeing Bali and New Zealand. And I didn't know why. And that's the thing with emotions as well. I think, we often are pressured to understand what we're feeling, exactly what we're feeling and why. And I just let it come up and I was like, okay, there is emotion there. So there is energy about these places. Like my body is feeling some sort of energy about these places. And I went to my friend's house, my wonderful friend who has been my Pilates instructor for a very long time, Lucy Potacek. And she's magnificent, has just sorted my body out. And to be honest, she's the reason that I have the mobility I have today. With the Pilates that she taught me all those years. And I went round to her house and two things happened the same weekend. I'm a coach and I went to a coaching course for some more professional development. I was telling this story. It was an exercise where you tell a peak story of a great thing that happened to you, one of the best memories of your life. And it takes 2 minutes. And then everybody in the circle tells you a value you have that they can discern from that story of yours.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's a beautiful exercise.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I highly recommend it for dinner parties and that kind of thing, or for family chats, because you really get to see and hear somebody in a different way, in a deeper way. And people were going around, this guy that I didn't know said, because I was telling a story about me ice skating along the Rideau Canal in Canada with all my friends, and I was teaching them to ice skate, and we were laughing and holding hands, and we were having maple taffy on the ice, and just gliding in this sunlight and seeing the sparkles on the icy Rideau Canal. This guy said, movement is really important to you. And I thought, how weird.
Mm-hmm.
What weird word did use? Movement. Usually people would say exercise or sport or something, or working out, or, but he said movement. And I was like, okay. And for some reason, that's what stuck in mind. And I went home and I spoke to Lucy, my Pilates instructor, and she came back to the house and she went, I've been thinking about you all day. You really love movement. You love moving and exercising, and you're always, you love being on the go and moving your body and getting into your body. Movement. You should go to Bali and come back with a yoga teacher training qualification. And I was like, yes.
Yes, I should.
Yes, Lucy, that is exactly what I want to do. How did you know? And she said movement. And again, I was like, how weird. Two people said movement within the space of like a day with 24 hours. And I thought I'd go for a yoga retreat because I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty like down the dumps about all this. Life's not really going the way I want it. I'll do a retreat, but what better could I imagine than being a yoga teacher? And for me, it was the reason it made so much sense in the moment. I was always a dancer, and when I was about 2.5 was the first time I was on stage dancing, and I did ballet. I loved dancing so much. I loved moving my body, and it was kind of the thing I was best at, and other things I could do, but I wasn't like great at them. And dancing, I just adored. It was like I just didn't have to think about it. It just came. And for some reason, the communication between my brain and my body and my emotions and my body just worked. And it felt amazing. And so I did gymnastics, and I was really good at gymnastics, and I could do these, holds and these stretches. And when I was 14, which I think I mentioned to you, it was funny. It was actually my sister was having some back pain. And I was fine. I was doing all this dancing and I was getting more into it. I'm like, I know I want to be a dancer, an actor, and a singer. And I always wanted to act. So the dancing and the singing sort of came into it as well. And my sister came home. My dad was like, did you find out what the back pain was? She went, yes, it was scoliosis. And she sort of did this test between the two of us to show my dad, me being a normal back and my sister's being slightly different. And instead, what she discovered was mine was significantly worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And to the shock to all of us, because I didn't have any problems at all with my back.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor. They said I needed to go immediately to this a back specialist in Edinburgh. And so I went to Mr. McMaster in Edinburgh and got these x-rays done. And I'll never forget sitting there at 14 years old, and he showed me these x-rays, and one of his colleagues had these x-rays just held up as he was talking to me, and my spine was like a proper S shape.
Oh, really?
Throughout my body. Yeah, like came out like hard to describe, but to here, like, and then to the other side, it was proper S, and I was looking, going, that can't be my back.
Well, you had that, but up to this point, you hadn't had any problems. You hadn't had any issues. You not had any pain.
Nothing at all. In fact, I was exceptionally balanced. Balance was my thing, right? I had one thing. It was balance. Not that you can make a career out of balance, or maybe you could. I don't know. So I was sitting there, and he showed me these things, and he said, "Look, you've got a really severe case of scoliosis," and he was very direct. And he said, "So you will have a hunchback by the time you're 21, and you will be in a wheelchair by the time you're 21 if you do not get this sorted immediately. This is a severe case, so we need to do it within under 6 months. We need to operate on you. To do that, we open you up, we clamp your spine together to make it more straight. We put 2 metal rods in and we screw them all in." I'm like, lovely.
And you're 14 at this point? I'm
14.
Jesus.
And I just, as he was talking, I was looking at the x-rays, and he said, do you understand what I'm saying to you? And he said, you can close the x-rays now. And he closed the x-rays. So I looked at him and I said, yes, I do. And he said, so if you get this operation done, you need to be aware that you may end up paralyzed and you may die because we're dealing with the spinal cord.
Mhm.
I've not had a history of that, but you need to be aware. This is a very, very possible scenario. And he laid it all out for me. My parents were just sitting, over there, but he was talking to me.
Mhm.
And he said, so you need to sign this form saying that that's all fine. What do you want to do? So I'm like, this wasn't exactly the choice I was expecting to get at 14.
Yeah, I was going to say most 14-year-olds don't have to deal with that sort of question.
No, but what was interesting was I remember feeling really calm and I was so present. I heard nothing else but what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And he said what he was saying, and I found myself saying, yes, absolutely, I want the operation.
Yeah.
And I was so calm, and I almost surprised myself with how grounded I was in saying that. And I think what really helped was he spoke to me directly. He was very direct, and he gave it to me plainly. And it's like, because I had all the information.
Mm-hmm.
So with all the information in front of me, the decision actually came easily. And for me, it wasn't a question. So yeah. This is my lot. So if I die or I'm in a wheelchair, well, okay, then that's what happens. That's just what happens. And that's just what what I've been given at the moment is these choices. And I wasn't promised a long life. I wasn't promised anything else. I didn't know what my life would contain or what it would be. So who am I to say that this isn't exactly it?
Yeah, but you're saying that as if, it would be hard enough for someone of, say, maturity, but someone who is of a certain age to make that decision. It's another thing to have that maturity at the age of 14 to say, well, these are, I have been given the facts, and here is the, it's a very mature thing to do at 14. At any age, but particularly at 14. I mean, I'm trying to think what I was like at 14,
I hadn't thought about it. I think that this might sound really strange, but I don't feel I can take credit for that.
Mm.
I feel it was just the way that I felt. And maybe, I mean, I had many operations actually, growing up. I had all sorts of things. I had a hearing problem, so I had grommets in, and then it's very unusual that you have to get them operated to get them taken out. Usually they fall out, but less than 1% of people have to get them operated. And so I had to got operation to get them in, and then operation to get them out. And then I got another set. And less than 1% have to have an operation to get them out, and that was me. And then I got another set, and less than 1%, and of course it was me. And and then I got a perforated eardrum, and then they had to go in and graft it. And I really wanted to be a scuba diver, of the many things I wanted to do. And I was like, I can't be a scuba diver. My dreams are dashed. So I had that. And so I suppose, I'd had some medical things quite young. Part of me I wonder if that dealing with those things at a young age, there was some sort of acceptance that that's what things are. But yeah, I can't explain it. I can't really take credit for it. It wasn't like in the moment I was like, do you know what the really mature thing to do would be is to look at this in that way. It just was. And it was kind of, I suppose, what I've been given in a way. That sounds really strange, but you're given this makeup of of who you are and how your brain works, and your to some extent your emotional state and your body. And yeah, it just made sense. It's just made sense to me. This is the information. These are my choices. Cool.
How many operations did you have on your back?
I actually only had to have one.
Right.
So it went well, and he did a great job of it. And the thing is, within that 6 months waiting for the operation, then my body changed so quickly. I had one shoulder that went right up than the other. I had one hip that was indented and one that was flat because the spine was curling to that side.
Okay.
So within 6 months, I could see it, and one of my shoulder blades was jutting out, and so very quick changes. And it was really great that I had the operation. But it was one operation, but it was a lot. Like I had to learn. I remember coming out of it, and I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't breathe. My whole body had been rejigged.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, remember mouthing, I can't breathe. And she was like, just breathe. I'm like, no, that's what I'm telling you that I can't do. I'm kind of struggling with that piece of the puzzle. So I pushed my belly out and started to breathe. And I realized that if I pushed my belly out, the air would just go in there naturally, which actually is something that I work on to this day, is breath work. And it really helps me be able to teach breath work. I remember I had to learn to breathe again. I had to learn to sit up again. Oof. And that was so strange, sitting up and all your organs are in a different place entirely. And I had to learn to stand, and I had to learn to walk again, because everything is different. Your whole balance.
Yeah. As a 14-year-old girl who wanted to be a dancer.
Correct. I was told under no uncertain terms by the one who's actually, well, Mrs. McMaster, his wife, when she was sort of, going through my vitals, she said, you won't be prima ballerina. I was like, oh, okay. She went, you can still dance, but you won't be prima ballerina. And usually when somebody says something like that, I'm like, well, guess what I'm going to do? But I was regimented. I was told that the more you move, the better it is. Now, Mr. McMaster said this. He said, you have to move. Every 2 hours I had to be turned over, and I couldn't breathe again. The pain was unreal. And he said, you have to keep moving. And then, some of the nurses were saying, you can rest. He goes, no, she has to keep moving. And actually, do you know, it was so wise, because even, these days with all sorts of, injuries I get, the more I'm learning is that actually this rest thing is not actually usually the best for us. Yes, there's a period of time where you might have to rest if you do something with your foot or something, and there is a place for rest, but we have to keep moving. We have to keep mobile with our body, and that's how we get stronger and more mobile. Our bodies want to move. So it feels counterintuitive. When we have an injury, we feel like we need to maybe lay down, and actually, obviously seeking medical advice, this is a whole gray area, because I'm not telling you to walk on a broken foot, but one of my teachers at the yoga school, he was a nurse, and he was talking about this and saying that, yes, you let something heal, and you also can't keep having to move it within the range that you can at the time. So it's, it's gradual, and it's so important to, as soon as you can, start to get that strength and mobility back. And I was determined. So I made myself a regimented plan. I was like, right, in the morning, I'm going to go for a walk around had a field outside the house in Nairn, in my hometown. I'm going to walk around this, and then I'm going to do these exercises. And then at this point, I'm going to set my alarm. I'm going to do these stretches, and I'm going to eat this for strength, and I'm going to eat this for what's good for me. So it was super regimented. And within, gosh, what was it? It wasn't long at all. I was so determined. Within 4 weeks, I went to Solvay Young Theatre School because I wanted to go. I was determined. I paid for it myself. It was my dream to go to Solvay Young Theatre School summer school. And so 4 weeks later, I was there, and I was doing things, and I was doing bits of movement, doing bits of dancing. I just trained my body like, this is what we do. And it became an identity thing. So yeah, I suppose from there, there have been times where my back has kind of, I hate the phrase, like I put it out, but it's gone into seizure, and I felt like I've had to start from square one, building up strength, building up mobility, building up flexibility. And a few years ago, it was during COVID, because we were moving very little, and I really did try. I was moving a lot, and I was doing a lot of bar and Pilates. I think what happened was I did a little too much.
Okay.
And when I did a little too much, I got quite strong lower back pain. When I got that, I was already in a place of fear with COVID and stress and anxiety. And so that made the pain even worse. So I was really worried there was something seriously, seriously wrong. And I couldn't move for several months. I had to go to hospital. They were checking me for cauda equina, which is one of the worst things you can get, really. And can result in paralysis if it's not dealt with. So I called Edinburgh, and I managed to get hold of somebody who was involved in my operation. He said, get yourself to hospital now. All of your symptoms point to this. And I did. And thankfully, thank goodness, it wasn't that. I went through a series of different things trying to figure out what it was. I did get some steroid injections into lower facet joints, and that really helped. I felt wonderful. I felt so much younger.
Steroids are great.
Yeah, because you had experience with this too.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It does make you feel quite magnificent.
Mm.
And I managed to go to the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital, and he was Mr. Mokoem was absolutely brilliant, and he said the same thing. He said, "Listen, you did not bring this upon yourself. You did not. I was scared that I overdid something." He said, "You didn't. You have a certain your makeup, your particular structure is just its own unique structure, and you need to cut yourself slack. So we're going to do this, but you have to keep doing the Pilates, keep moving, because you've been sedentary for a while, and I get why, but you need to keep moving, and you need to." And I was like, "Really?" But I was in pain. He's like, "No, this is good pain. It's okay. You are building the strength. It's sore because of the lack of strength."
Mm.
And I so appreciated, again, somebody just giving me a really direct, clear answer and instruction. So when, I've been doing that since, and I've been working really hard at it. Last year, when I was walking down the street in the Edinburgh Fringe, I suddenly felt a bit of like, I struggled to breathe a little bit. And I'd just been on a hiking trip with my Canadian friend. I was feeling great. I'd reached my peak of fitness again after my back injury. And I was feeling good. I'm like, yes, we're back in it. We're on the train. We're good to go. I'm feeling fit and healthy in my age again. And then so I started feeling this funny breathing thing. I was like, "Oh, this is strange." I'm like, "Baby, do your deep breathing. Come on, deep breathing. Oh, don't do that." Ended up crouched down on the ground,
Oh,
and this
really?
woman came out. Yeah, this woman came out and said, "Are you okay? I'm a first aider." And usually I'm like, "I'm fine." I was like, "I need help." So I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. Turns out I had to get my gallbladder removed in another emergency because I had an
What?
infection, because I had a gallstone that was trapped in the tiny little tube. And I was like, exactly what you said. What?
Uh-huh.
What is going on? I'm healthy. I really make an effort to eat healthily. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I juice.
Boost, yeah.
That's supposed to be the answer to everything. But I had to get this emergency operation again, and then I had to start from square one again.
Mm-hmm.
So cut to when I heard this voice saying, "It's okay, you're going to Bali." And my friend said, "You love movement." Guy, the coaching course said, "You love movement." I do love movement. And I always wanted to be a dancer. And I did dance, and I got into musical theatre, and I gained a lot of that ability back. But I just wasn't quite sure. I know that I love expressing through my body. I just wasn't quite sure what way was right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Lucy said, you should maybe you become a yoga teacher, you come back with a yoga qualification, it's like a light bulb went off. And I suspected that everything I'd done with my body might have led to this. This might be a really good fit for my experience, whichever way you want to look at it. And it was a turning point. It was a complete and utter life shift for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so, so grateful that I had those signs and those messages. I'm very grateful to Lucy for giving me that and giving me that impetus.
What a story.
Yeah.
Well, which kind of leads us on to the fact that we have been Facebook friends for I don't know how long.
I'm pretty sure Facebook can even tell us. Maybe I think it's been a long time. Facebook knows. It has something there saying like 10 years or something like that.
Neither of, yeah, a friend anniversary. I don't know. We don't quite know how our paths have crossed.
No.
However, I've seen glimpses into your life, just odds, not having known you at all. And then at the start of October, I kept seeing these posts where you're obviously out in Bali doing your 30-day challenge.
Yes.
So congratulations. Now on the day of recording, it's the 1st of November. So first of all, congratulations on completing your challenge.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you so much.
quite the achievement. And seeing you, I suppose there's so many things to unpack from that, because I found your post really inspiring and assumed that you had been doing yoga for years, and obviously didn't assume that you had metal pins in your back, because I'm there going, well, I can barely touch my toes. I'd love to get involved in this challenge because I used to, Paul will tell me off because I mentioned that years ago I used to be a rubbish triathlete. But when I was a rubbish triathlete, I did a bit of yoga. I did it, and I found that I never got any injuries because I was doing that bit of, whereas now I very inflexible. So whilst I was watching your posts, I'm thinking that this is great. This obviously not knowing, like I say, that actually you got metal in your back, and obviously the backstory. Wouldn't it be great if I could get back into that? But I'm obviously not going to choose your or join in with your challenge because you are clearly some kind of expert who can get into all these positions, whereas I can't touch my toes. So I suppose firstly, yeah, hats off for you to obviously done what you've done. Secondly, obviously having the backstory that you've got. And thirdly, what advice would you give to someone who like me, or someone who's going, do you know what? Well, I suppose first of all, what do you find are the benefits? Two-part question. What do you feel the benefits of yoga, and how would you encourage someone who wants to dip their toe into the yoga waters like myself? Because again, I'm watching your videos going, well, how does she know like the moves that are you watching something, or are you just making it up on the hoof, or how does that work? Sorry, there's about 18 questions I appreciate in that last. I'll just
Brilliant
wind you.
questions.
I'll wind you up, and I'll let you go.
All right, cool. I'm ready. Okay, wonderful questions. And thank you so much for sharing too. It means the world to me that you found it inspiring, because that's
brilliant.
Exactly the point. I'm so pleased. And you were curious about it. That's everything. That's the intention. Because it doesn't matter where you're at. The whole point of yoga is that it's embracing who you are and what you've got now in the moment. And that's why I love it so much. So I think it's testing it out. So I went to a few yoga classes, throughout life. I've been to different yoga classes. I've always felt drawn towards it. And I felt like it's something that I would enjoy. And I've enjoyed some more than others. And it didn't click until I went to a yoga retreat called Shambhala retreats in Portugal, in Sintra. And I wrote to them in advance because I said, look, I have six screws and 2 rods in my back. I want to come, but what's your experience here? Because to be honest, I have experienced, and it's not always, but I've experienced varying responses to me being in a yoga class. Sometimes it's been somebody coming up to me and trying to adjust me. And I'm like, my spine won't go that way. It's straight. It doesn't bend like that. And then, often it's fear of, okay. And they put their hands up like that, and they, as if you're infectious or something. Oh, you just do what you can then. And I feel kind of not part of it, not welcome, not really embraced, not really one of the yogis, not really somebody who belongs in that class. And that's not the intention at all. They're just being careful because they want to make sure that they don't injure you, which is absolutely understandable. But I can sense fear. We can all sense fear. Yeah. And when you've got somebody who's fearful of your back, then it's very hard to relax and feel comfortable.
Just kind of counter to what you're trying to achieve with the yoga.
Precisely. So I'm like, I'm not really feeling very yogic or zen right now because you kind of feel on your own. And that's how I have felt. When I wrote to Patricia and Zarka in Shambhala retreats, they came back to me with this beautiful email saying, hey, between us, we've had something like 40 years experience. I'm confident we will find whatever way suits you. That's yoga. And I was like, boom, I'm in. And I went to this class, and it was a week-long thing. What I learned, because I was nervous, I was like, I don't know yoga. And sometimes I'm flexible, and then something happens and I'm completely inflexible again. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going to be at. And so I arrived, and they were so welcoming. they were so great at the moment you arrived, you felt completely accepted, completely embraced. We were all at different levels, Lee. That's the thing. All of us were completely different levels. There was somebody there who had their yoga teacher qualification. And I didn't realize, because we were all there focusing on ourselves. Yoga is about you and within you. It's not about anyone else. So it's a brilliant exercise in non-comparison.
Mm-hmm.
We are so tempted to compare ourselves to other people.
Yeah.
I'm so guilty of it. And, you know, in the acting world as well, it's so easy. And anywhere in the film world, like, but that person's got this role. And then you've got your mum calling saying, you know, there's a part in Emmerdale that I could see you in. Why didn't you get? It's so easy to compare yourself. And it's one of the biggest challenges that I coach people with in acting, is to be focused on you, your intention, your path. Just focus on yourself, and kind of put the blinkers on. So having rules with social media, trying not to compare there. And with this yoga class, it felt empowering. I felt empowered from the toes up. And I wasn't told that I should be anything different. I wasn't told that my body should be doing anything different. I was completely embraced, and I felt powerful. I discovered in my own time, being given the same instructions as everybody else, I discovered new things my body could do that I never thought I could do. A new sort of different, my whole body was in a different posture by the end of the week. And I mean, halfway through the week, I went into a headstand, and I didn't know I could do a headstand, not since gymnastics way back when. I had no idea. So we were all practicing headstands, and I went up, and it turns out I could do this headstand. And so it felt really lovely, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that balance I had before I was 14, I'm balancing in a new way. So my body had gotten to the stage where I'd find a new balance. And that was I took so much from that week. There were so many incredible lessons. It was that yoga is for off the mat, not just on the mat. Everything we learn on the mat is for us during the day. So, for example, yin yoga, which is the one where it's beautifully slow. You maintain one pose for about 5 minutes, and you get into the fascia muscles. So the fascia muscle is the sort of sheath that goes over all of your other muscles. And that can develop a lot of tension. It can be the source of a lot of pain. And for me, with my back pain, it can often come from the back line fascia muscle.
Okay.
So with yin, we really get into that deep muscle. It takes quite a long time to access the fascia. So that's why 3 to 5 minutes of completely surrendering into a pose. Yeah, you're stretching your muscles, but then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So there's a release and another layer. It's like an onion. And so you completely surrender to that position. And that gets the fascia muscle. When you do that, there's often discomfort, right? You're in one position, you're like, oh, this is a stretch.
Yeah.
I kind of want to come out of it. And there's that instinct to move. And you don't. You're there for 3 to 5 minutes. So it's, how do you want to be with the discomfort? How do you react to discomfort? So if you're in line at a coffee shop and it's a huge queue and you've got to get to work and you're stressed because it's late, it's uncomfortable. How are you going to deal with the stress of that? How do you want to be with what is? You're not going to change the line. And so it's that kind of fundamental lesson of being with your body, being with discomfort, being with doing something new, and being sort of calm in that place. Or even if you're kind of aggravated, breathing through it and knowing that this will pass, this discomfort will pass, this stretch is going to move on to another one, and you've benefited your body from it. So that was a huge, great lesson for me in practicing non-reactivity.
I'm going to just jump in there, because my brain is wearing as you're speaking. So when you're saying sort of like sort of an empowerment,
yes, I
thought initially that you were going to say kind of physical empowerment because of obviously what you've been through. But it's kind of both. It's physical and mental empowerment.
100%. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So throughout this teacher training course, in fact, so the other day, one of the days that I did, the challenge was on, I was doing a whole video on the things that I struggle with, the positions that I struggle
I
with.
saw that. Yeah.
Because I really do. I don't twist. My back is made of metal. I'm the bionic woman. So great in some ways, bad in the way that I can. When I'm trying to do the twisty thing, I threw a class. Me and this other girl was like, "Where is our arm supposed to go? That doesn't work. That doesn't happen. What is happening with your body? Bodies don't bend in this way." And everybody's body is different, right? So some people find that really easy. I find the headstand easy. Some people find this bit easier. And
Well,
I was like,
you've got a rod in. You've got a rod in your back, to be fair. So you probably would find the headstand easy.
You know what? I didn't think about it like that. Don't take this away from me.
Sorry.
Good point. And I'm taking it. So when I was doing these stretches, I did say to my teacher, I was like, okay, listen, I don't twist. So when we're doing all the twisty things, just be aware that I can't do this. So when you're adjusting me, just be aware I can't twist. And at one point towards the end, she adjusted me a little bit. My hands were so close together behind my back to grab each other in this twist. And she just moved me a tiny bit. And I was like, oh, I can hold my hand. No, this isn't happening. Surely. Before I even realized it was happening, I was out of the position. And there was another twist that I was like, there's no way this is ever going to happen. It was the one that I did at the end of that video. And no word of a lie, that is exactly what happened. I was filming it and I was showing the camera something that I couldn't do. And I was like, this, I will never be able to do because it's just my lot and I'm made of metal. And as I was doing it, I found my hands and I could do it. And I was like,
your face is a picture at the end of that video.
I kept it in. I kept it in because I was like, this is real. And I realized now that I could do this. So in that way, I mean, I've had to text my teacher a couple of times going, I can do this thing that I never, ever thought that I would ever be able to do because of my makeup. And I can do it now. And that's through doing just a bit every day. So that is incredibly physically empowering.
Yeah.
And because my body is doing things that I have a really good reason for it not to be able to do.
Yeah.
Everybody would tell you that I wouldn't be able to do that. And somehow I have, because I've invited my body into it. It's not being hard on yourself. It's not being tough on your body. It's being kind to you. It's developing a whole new relationship. So you're developing a relationship with your body, listening to your body, inviting and encouraging your body to do this thing because you're like, this is good for us because this is twisting our organs. So it's bringing out our organs and it's detoxing and you're letting your body know what's good for it. And now that I've developed a good relationship with my body and I've had to, I feel like I should have learned this earlier. And of course, I know that's not a thing. You learn at the time that is right for you.
Yeah.
But it's taken me a long time to not be expecting my body to do a lot more than it can. That's huge for me. And that's why I want to share with as many people as possible is that it's not, there's another way. And we're so tempted to go hard and fast with our body. And our body is the only body that we're given for this lifetime. It's our job to look after it. It's nobody else's job. It's our job to have a relationship with it. It's nobody else's job. And so you have the choice to develop your own relationship with your body and to listen to its wisdom as well. And that's what I mean by the voice in my head. Some people feel unknowing. Some people just know that this is the right decision or that's the right decision. Some people kind of see it in dreams. I sometimes hear a voice in my head that is not, sadly, always Idris Elba.
But sometimes.
Sometimes.
But that goes back to something that we were saying earlier. I was saying that I'd seen this Instagram post about, somebody had saying it was this professor saying that, if you were given one job on the day that you were born and you were given this person, as someone with children, I can, relate to that. You're given this person and you've got one job, and that's just to look after that person and to make sure that, they're cared for and looked after and you do the best by them. Well, that person is you. So why wouldn't you? Why do I know it's a very, I don't want it to sound as preachy as it's maybe coming across, but why would you stuff your face with French fries and drink alcohol, and I'm not saying that I don't do any of these things, but I am trying to change things, and my outlook has changed vastly in the last 4 years. But why you've sometimes I think we forget that we've got this one body that, if we're lucky enough, lasts us a lifetime, whatever lifetime means,
Mm-hmm.
and it's precious. Why wouldn't you look after it?
An excellent question. And I think part of that is, I think that's a nail on the head, really, is that with yoga, you step onto the mat and you go within. You're focusing on your body.
Yeah.
When we're out in the world and out in society, we are bombarded with images, with advertisements, with, Instagram marketing, with this is delicious. We're told what's tasty. We're told what's delicious. We're told what to eat. We're told what's fun. We're told that drinking means you're having a good time. We're told that, chips is the best treat. And, really, we're told that things that are awful for us are treats and something to celebrate with. And that's what we're contending with on a day-to-day basis. So it's completely understandable that as a society, we're drawn towards the things that are bad for us, because that's who's making the money from us. And it's up to us to come back to ourselves and be like, what do I think? And actually, it was Matthew McConaughey, I remember, said that he didn't give his son a mobile phone until he was 16 years old, I think. And he said, he can hate me. He can hate me all he likes. He can, act out about this. But this is my choice and my decision, because I want him to know how he feels and what he thinks before he is told what to think and feel by the outside world. And I thought that was beautifully powerful. And it's a bit like that for me with yoga. Yoga's one of the ways that you can come to the mat and you can tune into yourself. And especially if you do this first thing in the morning, just imagine the difference in your day when, instead of going immediately, like Jay Shetty says, inviting 20 people into your bed, when you look at your phone, when you wake up first thing in the morning, you wouldn't invite 20 people into your bed first thing in the morning, but that's what you're doing when you go on Instagram or check your messages. Tune into yourself, and giving myself that time, being audacious enough. It felt like, oh my gosh, this feels really self-fulfilling. Do I dare actually spend 15 minutes on me first thing in the morning and prioritize that? It took a long time for me to be okay with that, because we're also taught, not to take care of ourselves and to please other people, to people please. So taking that moment to get on the mat, and even that's why I say, and I really stress this, even if you have time to just breathe for a minute, ideally 10 minutes, you're that's meditating. You are meditating. You're coming back to within. You're coming back to your breath. And it's not some big secret about meditation. It's just that the mind is messy. The mind's going to have a million thoughts, and it's treating them with non-reactivity, right? So not going, oh, I've got to do that, or oh, that happened, or it's not reacting and reacting emotionally to the thoughts. It's going, okay, that thought, all right, and yes, I need to do that. Yeah, okay. And this comes along, okay. And so you're not reacting, you just come back to, how does it feel to breathe? But that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And that's something that you mentioned earlier about it being in the coffee shop queue.
Yeah.
It relates to some of the episodes that we've done earlier, in that I'm trying to learn, again, when I've got two young children as well, not to escalate things and get involved in the drama, because you've got a finite amount of energy for that day, and you can either choose to use that in a positive way, or getting involved in the drama, like, oh God, I'm going to be, I think I read a book recently, they go, these people aren't out to get you. If a slow car pulls out in front of you and you're in a rush and you're like, oh my God, it's not their fault. They're not doing it on purpose. The people in the coffee queue aren't doing this on purpose. And you use all this energy in a negative way because you get uptight or somebody at work, and then you repeat the story to someone else, which is just snowballing the drama, and all this energy that you're, let's say, wasting, when you could, it's so, when I can do it, and when with the kids, again, because they don't do what you want them to do, and whether it's whatever it is that they're not doing. And rather than, that energy is far better. I feel, what I'm trying to say is I feel so much better when I can actually, like you say, not react and just go, okay, that's fine. I can either choose to wait in the queue, or I'm going to be late for a meeting or whatever's going to make me late. I'll choose to get a coffee later. But that's fine.
You say it makes you feel better. How does it make you feel?
Just calmer. I don't like, I do get very kind of drawn into things and wound up by things very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good feeling. And I can almost feel myself, again, especially with the kids, if you get drawn, and then, especially with children, it just escalates because just put your shoes on, and then they start, talking loud, and you start talking loud, and before you know it, and you're thinking, I feel exhausted. And I'm just trying to get the kids' shoes on. I mean, it's probably not a good example, but it can be
I actually think it is, because it's
something
something
simple.
that's insignificant.
It
seems insignificant, but it can snowball.
It can snowball and can feel exhausting when, in actual fact, yeah, if you use, I do find it very difficult to do, but when I can do, and I think that's why I was so interested in the yoga, and why I'm so interested in the podcast in general, because if I can find techniques that can help with just that, I guess, calming, so that you're not in this reactive mode all the time. And also I feel, again, talking about your empowerment, I suppose I feel empowered because I feel that if I don't react, I think I said to you earlier, you do you and I'll do me. I'm not giving that person power over me because I'm then got caught up in that drama, and I'm using this energy. I'm always giving them the energy because they've, for want of a better expression, won. If I just go, no, thank you. That's what if that's your opinion, or if that's what you want to do, that's on you. I'll just concentrate. I'll just stay in my lane.
100%. Oh, yes. And beautifully put. So beautifully put.
A random waffle, but
an excellent waffle. I love an excellent waffle. Spectacularly done. And do you know, but that's exactly what you've done is looked at life and looked at yoga. You've gone from life to yoga, because yoga for me, it means something different for everybody. For me, it is empowerment. And there's this wonderful phrase with yoga, which is exactly what you've just described. Where focus goes, energy flows.
Okay.
Whatever you're focusing on, as you just put so beautifully, is where your energy is being spent. Energy is currency. And, you have had to look at this and be very careful with where you choose to spend this precious energy. And that's something that's so important that not many people come to realize, is how much power you have, because you get to choose where you put that energy. And what you mentioned about the traffic, like my yoga teacher Taryn is at local yoga school, was absolutely wonderful and second to none, and I would just highly recommend that course. It was so beautiful in so many ways, and I'm still processing it even now. But she would say that everybody's doing their best. Everybody's basically doing their best with what they have, with the knowledge that they have. So if we don't take it personally, we keep our power. Like you keep your energy, they keep theirs. But as soon as we take something personally, all of our energy is like we're actually locked in on this person. And even from afar, they're away from us. They didn't even acknowledge us. They didn't even know we exist. And we're giving them all this energy directed towards them. And like you say, it's exhausting. And so with yoga, it's about transforming that energy. So, I mean, sometimes there have been occasions where I've been really frustrated and pretty angry, and I've gotten on the mat and like, I'd rather be doing things, take action, and is this sitting down breathing really going to help? And I took it out on the mat, and that day we were doing an Ashtanga series, which is a series of postures that's designed to make you feel triggered, to make you feel frustrated, because you work through it. And you really learn to work through frustration. And every time she got us to do another chaturanga, which is where you do, basically, it's essentially a kind of glorified push-up. And you're in a plank position, and then you go halfway down. So you're holding a half push-up. And then you go up to up dog and then down dog. So that's where you get your release. But my muscles were not that developed as well at this point. And I'm a really determined person. And she was like, and take a flow, meaning another chaturanga. And I looked up, and my eyes just did this searing thing they do when you get me riled up. And I slammed the ground. I slammed the mat because I had a choice. I could not do it. I could sit there, I could meet in downward dog if I wanted. I mean, that in a comfy position.
Yeah.
But I was so frustrated. I was like, well, this frustration could either be kept in my body and I could sit down and let it fester, or I can move my body and let that emotion be channeled into making my body healthier, just in that one movement. And something else that I didn't mention was it's just quite funny that there's one after the other. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome.
That's right. I remember you saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I completely plummeted. And one of the therapies that I was fortunate enough to come into contact with was this energy in motion. And they were talking about how, like, when you get a symptom, just like your chest infection, when you get a symptom, look at what happened before and look at what happened after. And often with chronic fatigue syndrome, when you'd feel completely sapped of energy, there was a tiny, tiny little choice that you made, or a tiny emotion that you felt. You didn't even register. And it takes you quite a long time to train yourself to see what happened there. Oh, I actually, we ran out of milk, and I really wanted a cup of tea. And I felt quite sad because usually I'm the one who gets the milk, and there was no milk there. Even if it's a tiny thing, when you're in that place, it can affect. And you start small, and it was about how it's energy in motion. So when we stifle our emotions, it comes out in a physical way. So it'll come out in a cold, or, in some sort of illness, or in an injury or pain somewhere. We're storing up energy. And when we move our bodies, we're allowing that energy to move and to flow through us. And, there's a great British stiff upper lip, and kind of this general attitude of it's brave to stifle your emotions, and we know it's the opposite. It's brave to be vulnerable. It's brave to feel your emotions, and it's brave to tell people what's really going on with you. And like we were saying earlier, you don't always know how somebody's going to hold space for that.
No.
Or not. But at least you're vulnerable and you're acknowledging the emotions. And when we acknowledge the emotions, we process things so much better, so much healthier than if we stifle everything. So even in that moment, just doing a yoga session, whatever comes up, you're breathing through it and you're moving through it. So you're moving without having to process and think through it all, and using your mind to think through everything and solve it all out. You're just letting the body do its job as well. And every single time without fail, when I've done some yoga, whether it's 2 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, I've always felt better. And by better, I mean exactly what you said, that moment that you experienced of the calm of, okay, that was just in my head. All those thoughts, all those frustrations, it's kind of this in my head and my body. What's happening right now? I'm sitting on a mat. What can I hear? What can I see? What can I smell? What can I taste? Being present and realizing that most of that frustration and everything we feel is worrying about what may happen in future or what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
So actually, none of that really exists, because all that exists is now. No. And when we can be in that place, it's a slower response time. We can respond to something rather than react to something. Reactive is that anger. Whereas practicing something like yoga and meditation, you develop even that extra second of when somebody steps in front of you in the queue, instead of going, excuse me, being passive aggressive.
Yeah.
You go, and you can decide. What came up for you there? What happened?
No, you can obviously read my. I just like that. So no, I mentioned that cousin Carrie, friend of the show, is messaging about various episodes, and she's talking about, I'm going to get this completely wrong, but it, not manifestation, but just otherworldly things, and the concept of time, and that time doesn't actually exist because the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't, only in your memory. The future doesn't exist because it hasn't happened yet. The only bit that actually does exist is the present moment. And she sent me all these links to things, and it's all a bit matrixy. Which is probably for another another episode. But yes, as you were talking there,
I'm
talking
sure
about,
we could dive in another episode.
I'd need to write some notes down because she sent me all these videos from people, and it fries my brain. I'm trying to be open-minded about it, but it's just, yeah. But from what you're saying in terms of energy and frequencies and being open to, certain possibilities and pathways, that sounds like that's another episode that we could maybe tap into, because that's a whole other subject.
It is. And I would love to. There's so much in it that I'm still learning. That's the thing. And you and I have focused on these things because we've had various degrees of difficult things to deal with. So it's been ways to cope. And what lovelier thing than to share that with people in case they haven't had the opportunity to, like, for me, I feel I was kind of forced to learn this stuff because of everything that happened. And I just think the most lovely thing I can do right now is to share that with as many people as I can. That it's to empower people, because I think too often we feel disempowered, and it's easy to feel disillusioned and disempowered in our society and seeing everything that goes on. And again, even with that, we can choose to focus on the negative and the stuff that bothers us, or you can choose, exactly as you say, and I love it, you can choose within moments to go, no thank you, that's not for me, and face in a different direction. And it's loving kindness, it's acknowledging, it's not judging, and it's not throwing any negativity in that direction. It's just turning away. And I relate to the frustration and the anger. It's something that that I deal with every day. And with the past and the future stuff, I realized, like, I this whole month, the reason I started this 30-day thing was because I did, you say, why are you in Bali? Honestly, sometimes I don't know. I feel like, what am I doing? My whole goal, I've always been so focused on acting. This is the first time I've allowed myself to focus on another area of my life as well as acting. I'm doing acting as well. But I'm allowing myself to expand this other part of me that's going to make me a happier person every day. And I think that too often we can neglect our mental health when we have a goal and when we are determined, when we're passionate. And I knew that I started to feel like, oh gosh, Amy, what are you going to do? Are you going to move to New Zealand? Are you going to go home? Maybe you should stay in Bali. You can get that visa, blah, blah, blah. Started thinking of all these things, and things suddenly felt scary. And I felt the need to take action and to research things. And it's the first day in a long time I was going to skip getting on a mat. And my first yoga retreat was 3 years ago, that I've been doing it every day, and I could count on one hand how many days I didn't get on the mat, and that was because I was going through surgery. But I mean, like, just some of those days though were 2 minutes. Some of those days were 5. So this was very different, like doing the 30-day challenge of getting on the mat for a bit longer and committing to being there, not being on the mat distracted, but being there because I had to be accountable to the people who were following this. And it was wonderful. I had no idea how much I would get out of it. I just did it because I was like, do you know what? The first thing that goes with me is my mental health and my prioritizing myself, my health. So, and it was a split second. I actually did a meditation. So I do ceremonial cacao as well. And I did a yoga session, and I did a cacao ceremony.
What's a cacao ceremony?
Okay, so that's a whole other thing.
Okay.
Cacao ceremony is beautiful, and it's one of my favorite things in the world. Cacao is where chocolate is derived from, It's a
Yes.
plant medicine. It contains the most complex structure of any foodstuff on the entire planet. It is the ultimate superfood.
Okay.
We crave it because it is extremely good for us. And it interacts with our own construct to make whatever it is that we are missing in our bodies. So it's really incredible. It opens up your blood vessels, so it increases oxygen to the heart and to the mind. So you feel an increase of dopamine and serotonin. You feel more open. You tend to feel feelings of sort of love or compassion. And it just makes you feel wonderful, to be
Sounds
honest.
amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. And I want to spread it to the world. And so I do this, and I there's nothing better than a yoga session and cacao session. And it's what I love teaching most, is when I've done those classes, it's been magical to see people who are like, what on earth is cacao? And what is yoga anyway? I don't really do yoga. When they do both, one after the other, and we do sunset yoga and then cacao underneath the stars by moonlight, people's responses have been out of this world, that it's just been so humbling to see the effects of cacao. Anyway, I did this myself, and I was like, what do I do? And it's been used by Southern Americans for over 5,000 years as a plant medicine. They call the spirit or energy of the cacao, they call it mama cacao. So you can ask questions or whatever it is, and the belief is that the cacao holds wisdom. She holds wisdom. So I have to say, every time I've personally consumed cacao, I've had a realization or epiphany, or things have become clearer, or something has come to me that I didn't expect. And that day I was like, what do I do to be most in alignment with what I want to do in life and the impact I want to have on people in life? And that's what came up, is do a 30-day yoga challenge now. And I never thought of doing that. I was like, okay. So another time the voice came, not Idris again.
Not Idris again.
Just my own.
Yeah.
Sad times. So that was what got me to do it. And honestly, where I was then and where I am now, I can't even believe that it's 30 days. And the response I've had from people is overwhelming. And people like yourself reaching out. It has been so wonderful to connect with people who have seen this and gone, oh, this might be something that I'm curious about. And that's been really beautiful, and it's been everything. And the number of people that it's helped, just by knowing that there's somebody acknowledging them, or somebody acknowledging that this is hard and the life's hard.
Yeah.
That's been really amazing. And I suppose also, you were asking, coming back to your question earlier, where you start, coming back full circle to how I started. These days, I make things up. I make a few things up as I go along. And I'm sequencing myself. I'm going, do you know what? I don't really like this pose, or my body feels like it wants to stretch in this way. So sometimes it's not even yoga poses. I'm just like, my body wants to stretch in this way. I feel it. Yeah. So I'm going to stretch in this way and experiment with that. And then I'm going to go into this other place. And I sequence myself. So I try to do something different and uncomfortable every day, so I'm not in a routine. And I would recommend, yoga for me is also about community and finding the right community for you and the right teachers for you. I'd recommend looking and seeing if there are yoga classes or yoga studios around you, and just going and remembering that it's not about anybody else. It's about you on the mat. I know somebody who got on the mat and sat down the whole hour, and that was exactly what she needed to do, because she needed some brain space for herself, just to breathe. And that was her doing yoga. And I know many people who skip different poses and go into child's pose for a while to take a rest. All these classes that I go to myself are all mixed abilities. So it's options for everybody. So I'd recommend trying different things, try different yoga classes. Yin is beautifully slow. It gets to the deep fascial release. So it gets to deep emotional release as well. And that's not to, it's not like it's not that's always visible. It's just within yourself. The fascia holds onto emotion, and we can release that. And it might be later in the day that you feel a bit of a release. It's wonderful. Hatha is slowly being in each position and breathing in each position, and really kind of feeling your body in that one pose. And I really enjoy that because you get really present. And then vinyasa is more of a faster flow, and it's moving with the breath. So that's just for an idea of different types of yoga.
Yeah.
And I mix a little bit of things. Sometimes I do a bit of a fusion, and I do a bit of Pilates with a bit of hatha. And I'm like, you know what? I want to do a sun salutation sequence. So I do a quick sequence just to get my breath up. So experiment. Go out and try and find what feels right for you. There's also, if you're at home and you're working from home and you want something online, there's also Yoga with Adriene, which I think is just wonderful.
Okay.
Shambhala retreats, the yoga retreat that I went to, she does amazing classes 3 times a week. So you subscribe for the month and you do those classes. So that's another option.
So is that on like YouTube or something? Would you subscribe Yoga with Adriene?
Yoga with Adriene is on YouTube, yes.
Okay.
She's brilliant. And you know, her motto is kind of find what feels good.
Yeah.
Which really helped me sort of dip my toe into experimenting with whether or not I might like this. And I actually preferred that than going to the classes that I was going to. And then now it's finding what classes are right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing classes as well next month, and moving forward, I'll be doing beginners classes and hatha classes. And really what I love is going by theme, because I've noticed the effect. For example, I do a yoga to unleash your voice class.
Okay.
And it's just stretching different parts, because I'm a vocalist as well, and I'm a vocal coach. I know the areas of your body that you need to release. And my gosh, yoga is perfect. It's perfect for these things, for these places. And also combining the coaching with yoga. And when you're asked powerful questions in certain positions where your body's moving, you're able to feel out an answer. An answer comes from more of a deep place rather than your logical mind. The sort of the lizard mind that takes over, you know, the sort of immediate caveman mind, which is what we keep trying to think from. When you're in movement and you ask a question, it's amazing to see how people go, oh, that's what I want to do. And, you know, I've had people go, I realized that actually I'm in corporate, but I'm a musician and I want to do my music, you know, just for asking a couple of questions in these poses.
Yeah.
You know, so it's finding what works for you. Like sometimes there's yoga for gratitude, and different positions. They're so well created, and it's such an ancient practice.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much wisdom in yoga. It's not just a workout. It is so much more than that. And it's really very specifically designed to move energy through your body for you to experience that feeling of calm. And what I would say is that feeling of calm also comes from, we've got the nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we do yoga, it activates that parasympathetic nervous system. So we slow down, we feel calm, we feel safe. So it's that rest and digest mode, which is particularly activated when we breathe well as well. So that's why it's really great to take a few deep breaths before being annoyed with that person who's just jumped in front of you in the queue. Not that I have an issue with this.
Clearly not. No one has irked you in the last month.
So that also we can activate the vagus nerve, which is the one nerve that goes from your brain all the way down your spine to all the areas of your body. And that's what's activated when you do cold water swimming as well. You can and for me, I do cold water swimming. I swim in all the seas I can get my hands on. I can plunge into, whatever that phrase is. But I've noticed that when you do that at the beginning of the day, because your heart rate is raised and you've gone into fight or flight mode because you're like, oh, it's cold.
Yeah. Then
you breathe and train your body to go, but we are safe.
Mm-hmm.
So you've calmed. So nothing else that day is going to stress you. Mm-hmm. It's not going to stress you that much. And I find that yoga has a very similar thing in that it doesn't quite get you to that fight or flight mode, but you don't need that. You're just in movement. And it's time. The major thing is it's time that you're investing in yourself, in your mind, in your body, because it's so good for you. Yoga is brilliant for everything else. Nothing else makes you better at yoga, but yoga will make you better at everything else in life.
I never thought of it like that, but I'm a big advocate. I would say from all the episodes that we've done, if there's one thing, I've said this before, so apologies to regular listeners, but if there's one thing that I could do that I think makes a real impact on my mental health, it's cold water.
When did you discover that?
Well, I used to, again, going back to a rubbish triathlete, again, it would be one of those woo-woo things that if someone had told me, I'd have gone, that sounds like a load of horse shit. But when I was a rubbish triathlete, we used to go in Loch Lomond on a Thursday night and go for a swim. And when I came out, you had that feeling of kind of, do you know what? I feel bloody brilliant. I used to feel great.
Yeah.
And it was only when then cold water, I think with Wim Hof and whatever became a thing. I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of when I used to go swimming in Loch Lomond. So I've got a whiskey barrel in the back garden now.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a place down in Callender that where you can buy them, and so they chop the top off for you to make a lid. So I've got a couple of handles from Timo, and just so I've got that to take on and off. Drill a hole in the bottom so I could put a drain tap, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's something about cold water, and I think I've said this before that I think it's because when that, like you say, when that cold water hits you, you are not thinking, oh, what am I gonna? I need to get some sausages for tea tonight. Not that I eat processed meat, but clearly I do. But you're not thinking about anything else because you're just thinking, Jesus, it's cold. So you're in that. You
Yeah,
cannot be anywhere else than in that moment.
exactly. And I wonder, with your history and being told this huge life-changing news of you have 6 months to live, in terms of how you dealt with that and like how all of this that you've learned, how much of it came before that point and how much of
Mhm.
it came after? Like, was the cold water something you practiced before that point?
No.
Interesting. Okay, so it was something that was it something that you decided I'm going to try this and see if it helps me
I think
cope?
that's the thing. I've just tried different things, and as me and Paul say, some of it works for what works for you might not work for me. And it was only really that I'd had the experiences in the lock before that I've kind of gone, do you know what? That might be something that works, and it
Mm,
does. And I think the misconception is that you kind of, I mean, it does. You can kind of, well, you'll know that you can. I'm sure the sea in Bali is not very cold, but you can kind of train your body to uh, get used to the cold. However, that's not to say that every time you go into a cold shower or go into a that your body is used to it, you still get that yeah moment.
mhm.
It's not, I don't wake up, and I very rarely wake up in the morning and go, oh, I can't wait to have my cold shower. But the feeling afterwards, I know how I'm going to feel afterwards, and then that kind of
Yeah.
forces you to do it. But it's not like my brain doesn't go, oh, do you know what? I've now trained myself, and I fucking love a cold shower.
No,
No.
I'm so glad you said that. Because I struggle with cold showers. I'm happy to plunge into a cold sea, but I really struggle with cold
Oh,
showers.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to go into even an ice bath,
Hmm.
but cold shower, I don't know. Maybe it's just an association like this should be hot and warm
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
pleasant.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's really it's an interesting one. I don't I don't think we train ourselves out of it. I think it's probably quite, I mean, then it would take the effect out of it, wouldn't it? Because you need the shock
Yeah, yeah.
factor to then have the whole point is that under stress, you are in control of calming yourself.
Hmm.
So, and again, it's for out of the cold plunge, out of your whiskey barrel. It's all something that affects you throughout the day.
Yeah.
For me, I don't look for the quick things. I'm looking for something that's going to cause lasting change.
Hmm.
And the cold water I think is a really powerful one.
So, Amy, if people want to get in touch to do cacao ceremonies or anything else, how do they get in touch with you? And we will put a link on our link tree.
You can go to Traveling Wellness Warrior on Instagram, and that's where you can find information on yoga, any of the new yoga challenges I'll be doing, any of the coaching challenges, building your confidence, and cacao ceremonies as well, and cacao info.
Look
I
out
think
for
it's
that
just
then.
it's a page of positivity, really, and encouragement.
That's what we need. That's what we need. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Amy, and we
Thank
will
you.
meet you again very soon to discuss
Yeah.
other topics.
Sounds wonderful. All the many of them.
Yes, all the many of them. All the best for sorting out your arrangements to New Zealand.
Thank you very much. I have 2 days left, so we shall see.
And
Shall
and we
see what
will,
happens.
yes, we all the best with that, and we will speak soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lee.
You take care, Amy. It's been an absolute pleasure. So that was Amy.
Ooh,
Are you all right?
yeah.
Okay.
Just what an episode.
What an episode.
Yeah.
So much to unpack, which we will do in a later episode when we have got an actual waffle. So we will unpack Leanne and Amy in a double header. Oh, suits you.
Yeah, a lot to unpick there. A lot to unpick.
Mm.
But how are you doing? We'll come back to you for a second. Are you well?
I am well. Yes, I am still on my fitness regime.
Paul Beeson's Check-In Corner.
Paul, do you need a jingle?
I think so.
Mm. But
You
hang
can
on.
fix it in post.
Right, but then I need a jingle because presumably I've got to check in with you as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Fix it in post.
Okay. I am, in answer to your question, I am very well.
Good.
I have continued on my anti-inflammatory diet.
Mm-hmm.
I am sticking to my 2,300 calories a day. I am drinking my 3 liters of water and have lost 10 pounds since Monday.
Jeez, that's unreal.
Yeah.
Well done. Just shows you, eh?
It just shows you. Interestingly, one thing that, and I don't know whether it's going to be in this episode of how I cut it up, but interestingly, we will be getting, although it was a marathon with Amy anyway, we'll be speaking to Amy again about the booze.
About the old bevy.
Yeah, because she gave up the booze. Obviously, lots of sugar in booze. Sugar apparently causes inflammation. And obviously I was having these chest infections, which I think is mainly down to inflammation. And since I've not been having the booze and not been having sugary snacks and treats, I do feel much better. Now, I know I've said this before, and then I've got hit in the ass by another chest infection. But I think, yes, sticking to the diet, cutting out the booze, doing a little, I mean, I haven't done that much exercise. I'm not 8,000 steps a day, which I don't think is, massive, is it?
Well, I mean, they say 10,000. It's an arbitrary number, isn't it? But
yeah,
who's to say that 8,000 isn't a good amount for you? Who knows? I don't.
It's a struggle on the days that I'm working from, or even the days I'm not working from home, because you realise you don't. It's a struggle. It's such a no, but it's a 8,000 on a normal day isn't necessarily. I have to physically make the choice to go out at lunchtime to go for a walk to get to 8,000, even to 8,000 steps. So all I'm saying is it's not like I'm beating myself up in the gym and doing lots of exercise. I would say it's mainly diet.
Well, that's good.
So
I, on the other hand, since I'm touring around, I'm really busy doing shows, burning a lot of calories and, loading set in, loading set out, doing 2 shows a day. And then stuffing my face with
I was going to say
particularly nutritious food and drinking beer and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of.
Did you just wobble your breasts?
Sorry?
Did you just wobble your breasts? Oh,
it was scales.
Oh, it's scales, right? Sorry, right.
So I'm looking forward to getting back because I'm going straight back into other shows when I get back to Scotland, but I'll be on a better nutritional path.
So we just had someone come to your room, a lady of the night. It wasn't. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, it was my pal Megan, my colleague.
Not Dr. Megan.
Not Dr. Megan. Another
no, right.
Megan.
And was she taking your dinner order?
She just delivered my order.
Right. So, for as an example, then, what are you having in your travel lodge room tonight for your eateries?
A chippy.
Oh, fish and chips.
Yeah.
I don't think. Oh, now here's the thing. As you're in Ipswich, I don't think we've had this conversation before. You'll only be getting one fish.
Yeah.
When Scotland, it's obviously called a fish supper,
Mm-hmm.
and you get two fish.
Oh, no, I don't get two fish in my local chippy in Dalgety Bay.
Don't you?
No, just get one massive fish. It's big.
Right. Right. Well, okay, that's the only fish and chip shop then in Scotland. Whenever you ask for a fish supper, you get two fish.
Okay. Maybe we should put that out to the listeners. Maybe you're just lucky that in your chippy you get two.
No. Any fish and chip shop that I've been anywhere in Scotland, you ask for a fish supper, you get two fish. And I remember having the argument once because I went to the one when I first arrived in Scotland and was asked to get 4 fish suppers. Well, I ended up with 8 fish and 4 portions. And even if you have like a sausage supper, you get 2 sausages.
Yeah, you get 2 sausages.
Right.
But I mean, I grew up in Edinburgh and now I live in Fife, and I cannot think of a time when I've got a chippy and had 2 fish.
Right. Well, can the listeners put us out of our misery, please? Is it just that the east coast of Scotland, particularly Edinburgh, is just stingy, as per stereotypes? And
or is the fish on the west so shit and small you have to get double to make it the same as an Edinburgh portion?
it's a one big, massive Edinburgh fish.
Yeah.
Well,
big fucking posh fish, mate.
do you know whether we have any? Oh, I haven't turned my phone off. Do we have any listeners in Scotland who are like Inverness, Aberdeen, other areas of Scotland that aren't Glasgow, Edinburgh, that we can like say, well, in Stornoway,
somewhere else that yeah,
we don't have fish suppers because we just eat black pudding all the time. I don't know, but no. Whenever I thought it was a Scottish thing. Whenever any chippy I've been to is 2 fish.
Oh well, maybe I'm going at the wrong chippies then.
Maybe you are.
Yeah.
Anywho, so other than eating shit and living out the back of a van, you're okay.
Yeah. No, the tour's going well. We're having a good laugh. The show's going well. So apart from just the tiring drag of driving from one place to another and all that kind of stuff, it is very enjoyable. But I am looking forward to getting back home in a couple of days. Very late Monday night.
Okay, so you're in Ipswich tomorrow night as well?
No, so I'm in Ipswich tonight and then shows in Ipswich tomorrow. Then off to London on Saturday night, then shows in London on Sunday. And then I go to Yorkshire first thing Monday morning for a rehearsal for my Christmas show for the day, and then get back to Scotland late Monday night.
Christmas show being Polar Express?
Yeah. And then back late Monday night, and then up at the crack of dawn on Tuesday morning to go to another rehearsal, and then back, and then that's me. That's me. Just non-stop, mate. Non-stop.
Well, this is the life of a working actor.
Yeah. It's good to be busy. I'd be complaining if I wasn't working. Do you know what I mean?
That is true. You would be
complaining. But take it positively.
Absolutely.
Glass half full and all that.
Milk that Christmas cash cow. Udders.
Or a reindeer.
Oh, yeah. Good, yeah. Good one.
Milk a reindeer.
Can you milk a reindeer? Do they have udders?
I've never tried.
No, I've never tried. Again, if anyone owns a reindeer and knows whether you can milk it, I've never heard of reindeer milk, to be honest.
No, I haven't either.
No, I don't think that's a thing.
No, I don't know if I want to try it because if you get the
no, don't go there. Okay, so do you want to do, as I forgot to do housekeeping last time? Do you want to?
I will give it another shot, and hopefully you remember this time.
Yeah, it did go in the end, but you had to correct me. I was ready to wrap up, and then you said, "Oh, what about my housekeeping?"
All right. Well, since you so kindly offered, I will do some housekeeping for you right now.
Well, good, because for some people it is the highlight of the show. Oh, I love the housekeeping.
Is it cousin Carrie?
Cousin Carrie loves all the bits, not just the housekeeping. And do you know what? I think but I missed a trick here, because yesterday, this is now the 1st of November. Yesterday was our 1 year anniversary.
It was.
And do you know what I thought about doing and then didn't do? Was I was going to do a message on and as it was Halloween, I was going to do a message to our wonderful listeners, and mainly for your benefit, which is going to be Elmo Pickles wishing us a happy 1st anniversary.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
I thought about it and then forgot about it, and now it's too late. So,
do you know, maybe Elmo will make a little appearance in our waffle episode next. We just have a belated birthday. If he seems to be hanging around your house a lot, so
yeah.
If he's there, if he happens to be there when we're recording, maybe he'll pop in the window and say hello.
Yeah. I mean, I should have gone as him to Halloween, really.
Yeah, because the best bit about putting a costume on is explaining who you are to people who have no idea who Elmo Pickles is.
Well, you'd say that, but I mean, some of the costumes leave a little bit to the imagination. Like, for example, I bumped into someone last night who I went, "Oh, are you Pac-Man?" And they were very affronted. They were supposed to be a chicken nugget.
Wow.
I mean, it was very good. If it was a very good costume, it just did look a bit Pac-Man.
Well, it wasn't great if you didn't know it was a chicken nugget.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Try harder, nugget.
You nugget.
Anyway, shall I do my housekeeping?
Sorry, yeah, do your housekeeping, yeah.
Hobbies housekeeping. Oh, how very lovely.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email at sliceofmindcake@gmail.com. Sorry, Lee's milking a reindeer in his room by the looks of it. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter if you search for @mindcake podcast, and you can find us on Facebook if you search for Mindcake. Please do like and subscribe and give us likes and reviews and all that stuff as well, because it really helps to build the channel.
It does, because ultimately we want to monetize it and then retire.
That's the dream.
Or sell it. We could sell it to a large conglomerate.
Sell it to someone who knows what they're doing.
Sell it to someone who knows what they're doing. And I mean, the fact that you do these things, well done on the housekeeping, by the way.
Thank you.
The fact that you're now doing this on your iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas when you're at home, you got all your fancy mics and what have you.
Yes. Yeah.
Just means you don't actually need any equipment at all. You just do it on your iPad.
I know, it's just lip service, and it just makes me look like I know what I'm doing.
Literally lip service.
Literally lip service.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I'm going to go and eat my chippy.
Go and eat your chippy and your one, well, maybe not massive fish if it's not Edinburgh standards.
I'll report back later.
Please do. I tell you what, could you take a picture of it and put it on the socials?
I'll do that for you.
Do that, please.
Okay.
All right. Enjoy your chippy.
Cheers, mate.
Speak soon, and love you lots.
Love you too.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Let's start a podcast about our mental health for no good reason why. Let's call it Mindfulness.